Welcome to Search Talk Live with search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Search Talk Live. I'm your host, Robert O'Haver, along with Caleb McKelvin. Caleb, how's it going?
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, Robert?
Not much, man. Keeping busy.
Yes, sir.
Those of you tuning in for the first time, Search Talk Live is a digital marketing podcast. We talk about everything to do with digital marketing, whether it's SEO, content marketing, social media. I mean, you name it. We talk about platforms. We give our little take on some of the different platforms out there, conventions, and all that good stuff. We talk about everything. Anything you can possibly think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about strategies that you can take today, apply to your business, to your practice,
actionable
and really make some changes. And that's what we plan on doing today as well.
Yeah, and during the show, if you have questions, you can go on Twitter and do hashtag Search Talk Live and ask your questions. We're monitoring that live right now, so we can get your questions in during the show.
Yep.
If we don't get to answer them before the end of the show, we will definitely answer them on the next episode.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about some really important stuff. I mean, customer service, obviously, there's a lot of companies that just don't get it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's one of the biggest pillars of your business.
And today's digital marketing age, there's different ways of handling things, and we've brought in an expert with us. She's head of the business community and customer service for social media for the Pubcon, and I know I'm going to mess this up, but her name is Melissa Fach. Fach. Sorry, I knew I was.
I told you it was Fach. I told you.
I should always go with the opposite of what I choose.
Yeah, right.
Just go
right. Yes, we have the social community manager at Pubcon with us today, Melissa Fach. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm great.
Awesome. We really appreciate you joining the show. We know you're super busy, got a lot of stuff coming up, but we're here to talk about some important stuff that could help a lot of companies and businesses. But before we get started, if you could, just for our audience, introduce yourself, kind of a little bit about your history and what you got going on now.
Okay, well, I actually started out in content and SEO.
Okay.
And then I was offered the editor position at Search Engine Journal. I started getting more into social media there. When I left there, I went to M.A for 2 years and worked on the content and social teams there. Mm-hmm. My final year was customer service from 8 to 12:30 Florida time, East Coast time, while everyone in Seattle was still sleeping. So I got a lot of customer service experience working for M.A, and then now I'm with Pubcon.
Nice. You're well diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like? Was it kind of an eye-opening experience when you went from doing SEO content and social media to doing kind of performing the customer service portion of it? Was it just a big change?
It was a big change. And it was, my background is psychology and mental health. So you think, okay, I know how to handle myself appropriately and to keep my temper in check and everything, but M.A has so many customers and so many needs. And so you're meeting the needs of the customers themselves and then also the community who can't find an article on the blog or someone that has a question about a tool or, it was just so many people.
Yeah.
So M.A did a really great job of having protocols in place and manuals and information and phone numbers. So you always knew how to help someone reaching out to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Was it kind of eye-opening to see, because I've talked to some people that worked in customer service on how small a problem can be that people make kind of really bigger than it is to kind of major. Was it crazy to kind of see the diversity of the issues that you kind of had to deal with?
Yeah, because, you have to keep in mind that some people might just be having a bad day.
Right.
I had one guy that just a ton of tweets, I think like 12 or 13 tweets. And I said, I really want to help you. I'm going to send you a direct message and I'm going to get on the phone with you. And when I got on the phone with him, he had recently been diagnosed with cancer.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
And he was like, I'm sorry, I just flipped out. And so you just never know what's going on with someone
Yeah.
behind the scenes. They may not ever act that way. It's just that this one particular day, and how the brand responds to that is massive, because everyone is watching, and people will write articles about it. The biggest experience I had at Moz was we had a DDoS attack. It was the first one we'd ever really dealt with. All of Moz went down, and everyone's asleep, and I'm calling people, and everyone needed their tools, and they needed reports for work, and they needed, and I was just trying so hard to keep them all happy and keep them calm, and trying to figure out, what was wrong with the site and wake people up. But what was cool was, after my 5 hours was done, the next day someone wrote a case study on how Moz handled it.
Oh, wow.
And it was really cool. Like, wow, I did a good job. Somebody thinks I did a good job. But the difference, one thing that Moz did really, really well is, no matter who is running social, and all different people are running it at different times, the treatment of the customer and the community is consistent and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You didn't know who was running it at what time. The only way you knew I was running it is I wouldn't use the word woot.
Said Jennifer.
Yeah. I just couldn't do it. But other than that, it was all about consistency, and so I learned a lot from that. You see a lot of that type of behavior with Zappos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the big key, and the thing we were planning about talking about today, is really how to take that, behavior that you have, the behaviors and the protocols you have set for your social team should really follow through all the way with your phone customer service and your salespeople, so everything's consistent. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is if you're really great on social, and then someone calls and someone's rude on the phone, they're going to go to social to complain.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
You're going to find out.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, is it just, I guess, I feel this way. That's just where we feel like our voice can be heard, and where we're going to get the fastest response. Because if it's on social, it's out there. Everybody can see it. Their customers can see it. Your friends can see it. And I guess, is that kind of where it starts, is having a plan of action on how you're appropriately going to respond to every situation? I guess planning is going to be the biggest part. And what's your protocol from that aspect? Is that kind of where it starts?
Right. It really, and it's kind of hard, because you have small businesses who are trying to manage this on their own. Mm-hmm. And then you have larger companies that have 10 employees running it. But either way, you really should have protocols set and ready. And the reason being is, let's say you are just a small business. Your social employee may leave, and then you have another one come in, and you don't want to just have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did we do before? So you want to have things all in place. So if your business grows and you add employees or someone leaves, everything is consistent. But, it is very difficult. You have these trolls, and you have these people that really, no matter what you say or do, they're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned to do was get them offline. Like, can you DM me your phone number or message me your phone number?
Right.
I will call you right now, so that it's out of the public eye as fast as possible. And then you're going to have some people who are going to be like, no. And at some point, you just have to say, I've tried everything I can to help you, and you just aren't working with us, Yeah. But you have to keep your temper in check, because, I've seen Comcast and on CNN. CNN's done stories on how they did not handle an outage well. You can't afford to do that.
Yeah,
sure. And you got to be tactful in what you say and all that good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And the big. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The big thing to learn when you're first starting to manage customer service is it's not personal. They're not yelling at you specifically. They're yelling at a brand. Mm-hmm. So you really have no reason to get your feelings hurt or to get angry.
Right.
And I'm guilty of this. I've yelled at Comcast a few times on Twitter.
Yeah.
I've done it, and I feel bad, but I'm not yelling at that person. So it's really all how you handle it.
Yeah. They just kind of get the brunt of it, which I've done it before, with, you know, DirecTV or cell phone or whatever. And like you said, you've had a bad day or something like that. You kind of want to get through and you feel like that's the only thing to do. But with that being said, I don't want to kind of bounce around here. I kind of have this question for later in the show. As a company, and I've had this question asked to me, and I honestly don't know how to answer it. Is there a time that you stand your ground as a company? If they just keep going after you on social media, is there anything you can do, or just kind of let it go? But is there any time you kind of stand your ground and you know, have a specific response to your community there so they can see it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of transparency that is good, and then there's the transparency that is going to make someone that is talking to you look bad. Mm-hmm. And that's where the fine line is, because you never want to be the company that humiliates someone.
Yeah.
You know, now we've seen it happen. I think Target has done it on Facebook, where people were being really awful and insulting about bathrooms. I think Wendy's went through a situation recently, and they stood their ground, and that was fine. The majority of the internet accepted that, and they were okay with it. But you just never know when it's not going to be okay and when it's going to turn on you. So usually what I do is, if they just won't stop, I say, I've done all I can do. I've messaged you, our phone number and our email. We're willing to talk with you, and I just have to end the conversation here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the internet is so unpredictable.
Right.
You know, but it is a blessing, though, if you are doing some customer service on social. After a certain amount of time, it's buried, you know.
Yeah.
B, I would say, is that other people seeing those tweets, the complaints, those things, and they see that you're on top of them and you're trying to make them happy and help them.
Right.
That goes a million miles.
Yeah.
It does. And you can't make everybody happy.
Right.
I mean, it's just impossible. I mean, some people, you could just send them a cake and $1,000. They're still not going to be happy. So, you know, but you can do the best you can. And yes, I mean, people watch how kind you are and how you're trying to help. And it does help the reputation of your brand.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I mean, from a smaller scale company with a local business, you might not have that many complaints. You know, you might see maybe one or two come through a week, you know, if not a little more. You're able to manage that and do that response and those expectations. But for a bigger company, do you respond to everything, or is there a cutoff point? Do you pick and choose, or do you kind of set levels of, okay, if they're complaining about this, how can you kind of manage that? Maybe if you have a smaller team, but you're a larger company.
Well, I try to respond to every single person and come to a resolution until it becomes abusive and non-productive.
Yeah.
If there's just, you've got it documented, it's in writing, everything you've tried to do, and the customer still just, won't calm down. That's when you take a break, and you might follow up 24 hours later when they've calmed down a little bit, 12 to 24 hours, and say, hey, we had this conversation yesterday. I thought about you all night. You might not have, but it sounds nice.
Sounds good.
And I really want to help you, blah, 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 blah. People tend to be a little calmer 24 hours later. The other thing that I always suggest to people is to validate their feelings. So if you come out and say you're wrong, you're going to have a fight. If you say, you know what, I totally understand your feelings on this, and what can we do? As long as you're helping them, you make them feel like you understand.
Yeah, they just want to be heard most of the time.
Right. As long as you do that, I'd say about 90% of the time, they calm down pretty darn quick. And then you have the others who are just either trolls or, again, having a bad day or just not a nice person.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be doing customer service, you are going to deal with all of them.
Oh, yeah.
So you just kind of have to be prepared. It's the amount of personalities is almost humorous because it's wow.
Yeah.
The questions, and the other thing that's sometimes hard to, I always get agitated when I call Comcast and they say, well, do you not know your password to your Wi-Fi? Is that why it's not working? I know my password.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
or have you restarted the router?
There's clearly a bunch of people that are in those, very beginning steps and just don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the other thing with customer service is you have to understand that you're going to have people from the beginning to advanced on everything, products, services, their first time dealing with a company. So you kind of just have to be prepared for whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was saying, if you're just tuning in to this episode of Search Talk Live, we have our special guest today, Melissa Fach, the social community manager at Pubcon. We are talking customer service through social media and building a business community. So if you'd like to get your questions in, you can do on Twitter using hashtag Search Talk Live. We'll get to those as soon as possible on the air. But yes, get those in as we go through the show.
Yeah, so Melissa, what would you recommend tool-wise to follow, not just on Twitter, but, maybe it's Facebook or just, scouring the web to make, see if anybody's talking about you, or,
Yeah, can you get immediate alerts when somebody mentions your name or your brand in a certain aspect?
Yeah, and there are multiple tools that offer that. And I'll tell you what, I love the Twitter dashboard, but they decided to shut it down this month.
Really?
Oh, wow.
I cannot figure out why.
Know that.
It was perfect. If someone even mentioned you in any way, you were notified.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Are you talking about TweetDeck?
No, it was the Twitter dashboard.
Oh, okay.
It's been out, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. And I think part of the problem is they didn't promote it enough, and a lot of people didn't know what it was. When I talked about it at PubCon in October, people looked at me and had never heard of it. But Sprout Social is good. True Social Metrics, those are usually the two that I've used the most.
Mm-hmm.
But both Twitter and Facebook have really added a bunch of social media customer service tools to that any business can use, and they're pretty good. They not only allow you to watch what's being said about you, but allow you to set up instant replies and give feedback. And I think everybody should really be paying attention to those tools, because when you have Twitter and Facebook creating tools and adding them to their platform, which they've had to create, it's because they know that this is where customer service is going. And a lot of small businesses have just given up on Google and even trying to rank and do well. And they're just using Facebook as their main, website.
Yeah.
Because everything's there. People can call you from there. They can talk to you from there. They can send you messages. They can customer service issues. You can even put your products on Facebook now. So things are changing quite a bit. But those are, I'd say Sprout Social and True Social Metrics would be the two that I use the most. And then, of course, just keeping an eye on hashtags and doing searches. I love Twitter Advanced Search.
Yep.
for everything.
Yeah.
And then have you all done searches on Facebook for your brand, just name searches?
Yeah, I've done name searches. Yeah. So
you can see things being said there as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's important. Is response time? Is that going to be a major factor? Do you need to kind of be quick to the punch to respond?
You do. And both Facebook and Twitter now have businesses can set up their hours that they're available. So you can say customer service hours from here to here, but then you can set it up on Facebook. You can say, okay, we're not available from these hours, and they'll get an automatic response that you can customize. We're not in right now, but we'll be in at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we'll respond, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so that allows people to feel like they've at least gotten their name in there. The one thing that used to drive me crazy at Moz is people would tweet, and then they'd send a message on Facebook, and then they would submit a support ticket, and then they would tweet that they submitted a support ticket and hadn't heard back. And this was at like 3 a.m. Well, no one was working.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get to you. We promise. But, everyone's in different locations. So now it's nice that Facebook and Twitter have allowed you to respond to people and say, we will be in touch as soon as we can. It kind of makes people feel like they've been heard.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not just lingering out there wondering if somebody's going to get back to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, are you ever? And I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
I have tweeted 3 times. Yes, in 10 minutes.
Right.
Where it's 3:00 in the morning.
Right.
But I would honestly check my phone and before I went to bed, like at midnight or 1:00, and and there would be messages there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how they just work around the clock.
People are, it's instant gratification nowadays.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're used to finding exactly what they want when they want it, and they want a response. And Twitter has really been with brands. I mean, brands have been doing that. Mm-hmm. And so now people just think this is how all customer service should be: phone, email, and it's just not.
Yeah, that's their expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've been there.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep in mind. And the other thing that's nice about Twitter and Facebook is they allow you to put your time zone so people can be very clear on when you're going to be available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit about the community development part, because I feel like how can you build that community to where they're kind of your voice as well through social media? Because I've seen it in instances where people might have said certain things and they've actually had not the company respond, but people that follow that company or use that company. Is that something that you can build? Is that something that's doable?
Well, I think every business is different. So do they need a community or do they need social media? Because they're kind of two separate entities, For someone like Search Engine Journal or Moz, they have a lot of readers. They have people contributing articles, although Moz did shut down Moz, but they do have contributing articles on the main blog. But it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because people are getting around and they're talking and they're learning together. But if you're like an ice cream shop, it's going to be harder to build a community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it can be done, but is a community what you need? Or do you just need people that attend or come to your business to create content for you that you can use? Have you all heard of Yelfies?
I have not.
No.
Okay. So Yelp created Yelfies. So if you're using the Yelp app and you're at a business and you check in, you can actually take a Yelfie and it gets posted. So it's basically creating content on Yelp. And so community is there, but I think part of the problem that we're seeing as a whole with businesses is, do they actually need a community or do they just need social media to manage customer service? I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, no, you are. Yeah.
So it really comes down to what are the goals of the business and what do they want to do.
Gotcha.
I think every business could use user-generated content in any ways they can get it, because it can be used in emails, it can be used in social media and content on the website. So from small to large businesses, trying and get your customers to create content for you, and they don't have to write it. It can be a picture of what you've done for them, or your food that they put on Instagram, or a contest on Instagram. I mean, there's so many different ways to go. And when you start doing little things like that, where you're using the people that use your products or services, you do start to build community from there.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's kind of hard to ask customers to create content for you, and even getting testimonials can be very difficult. Yeah. So as much as I like community, and community is great for larger brands that have people that are going to participate, it's hard. I've had so many smaller businesses say, now, how do I create a community? And I don't even know if you could.
Right.
So, And the other issue that we've got is that people's focus is just off. Mm-hmm. They are very, very busy doing not a lot of things. So their focus isn't on brands quite as much. They're talking with their friends. It's just kind of changing a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I guess if I could answer a little more if I knew what kind of business we were talking about.
Gotcha.
But with Pubcon, it's been different because our community is mostly our speakers and our long-term attendees. Mm. So we talk a lot. We have a private Facebook group, and usually when Vegas is coming, that thing is full of people with their memories and their ideas and places to eat and ways to get up every morning in Vegas and make it to the conference and how to make it through the day and how not to drink too much. And there's just tips.
Yeah.
And so it's a different kind of community versus Moz, where it was all about search questions and social questions and which tools to use and what is Google doing now. So every business is a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, if you're just tuning in, of course, you're listening to Search Talk Live. Definitely appreciate you listening today. We are sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. You can go to robertpalmercompanies.com. Check out everything they have to offer. That is robertpalmercompanies.com. We're joined with our special guest today, Melissa Fach, the social community manager at Pubcon. If you'd like to get your questions in, you can do so on Twitter using the hashtag SearchTalkLive. We are managing that as the show progresses, so we'll get your shows on the air. Now, we talked a little bit about having the right people in place, and I kind of want to expand on that a little bit because I think it takes a special kind of person to be in customer service because there's a lot coming at you, especially with, the bigger the company that you're with. If people are looking to have those people in place in this digital era, because you got the social media, you even got reviews on Yelp and stuff like that, you got the incoming calls, the emails, everything like that. How can you have those right people in place? Are you looking for people with customer service backgrounds and develop the social media skills and the digital skills? Or is it vice versa? Or is it an equal mix? How can you get those right people in place to handle these situations?
Well, clearly experience is important, but at the same time, like when I started with Moz, I had never dealt with customers in my life, like this,
Yeah.
But I think people can learn. It really comes down to, you want them to be tech savvy. You want them to be able to type as fast as possible. But you have to have, I think every company has to start off with who do we want to be and how do we want to be seen? What are the core values of this company and how are we going to portray that when we sell and what we write and how we speak to each other? That is going to really define who you're going to hire. Mm-hmm. It's, if you're going to have any kind of community or social team, you want everybody to kind of have the same values, and a lot of people look at me in shock when I say you want to hire people that actually like people. And people are like, well, duh. And I'm like, no, if you ask people, do you like people? You'll be shocked. Someone will say, no, they're irritating. And gosh, they're so dumb. And right off the bat, that person's out.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a genuine like of people. And you have to be okay with these people having different political views than you and different, religious beliefs. You have to just be accepting overall of whoever is talking to you. And they have to be able to stay calm. That's really the key because you are going to be insulted at such a level,
Right.
So what I tell people to do is to really dig deep into their social media channels, not for drunken pictures because everybody gets drunk, but how do they talk to people online? Are they rude to people? Are they short with people? Are they disrespectful? Because if they're this way with their friends, they're going to be this way with customers. And so, again, that Twitter advanced search is really helpful. What did they say a year ago before they got the social media? if there's someone you probably wouldn't enjoy hanging out with or talking with on social, then that's not someone you want to work with. The other thing is, do they trash companies that they no longer work with online?
Yeah.
That's important. Do they spell well? That is the biggest fail on social media, is spelling. I mean, it's painful. But I always have this list of desired traits. You really have to be self-disciplined working in social media, because you're kind of on your own in front of a computer. And you could get lost looking at Facebook or watching YouTube if that's the type of person that they are. I have always worked out of my own house, and I have always worked longer hours than everybody I know. Yeah. Because I'm very self-disciplined and I work very hard, but that isn't the case with everybody. Do they have the ability to learn quickly? Can they adapt to any situation? What kind of communicators are they? Being just an overall caring person is really important. And can they adopt your core values?
Yeah.
Because some people, can't adopt Hobby Lobby's core values of birth control.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can't, that's fine. Don't work for them, but don't work for them and disagree and be hostile, So it's hard for employers, I think, because everybody says they have social media experience.
Yeah.
But it's different dealing with people. So the other thing you can do is have like 5 really difficult questions, mock questions. How would you handle this? And just start drilling.
That's a good idea.
And if you see them getting flustered or frustrated and agitated, just sitting in an office with you with the 5 questions, and they're probably not going to do well when they're getting, 200 questions in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll tell you everything you need to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially you can see their body language and everything and how they're handling things.
Right. And you see it, they don't know. Some of them are just like,
right.
And so psychology is helpful, but not everybody has a psychology background, but you can pretty much tell the people that are understanding and can have some empathy for other people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just feels like if you're going to be in that kind of role, you have to have a genuine, you have to have patience and a genuine want to help people and understand that where they're coming from. Because like we've talked about before, people could be having a bad day. If you don't have patience, then you're going to get snippy with them. And even if it's through social media, you can see that. You can see kind of the tone and everything like that. So,
right. And sometimes tone is open to interpretation.
Right.
So you really have to be careful. And I always tell myself, before I hit send, read it 3 times.
Yeah.
Am I saying this well? Can this be, twisted in any way?
Right.
I had a writer once submit an article, and he used the term short bus.
Oh.
And I replied to him, and I said, we can't have this part. You'd have to change this. And he, honest to God, did not understand why that was offensive.
Yeah.
And so,
All
so
right.
sometimes you have to be prepared that your employee might not know that things are offensive. But that's kind of the things you need to ask about ahead of time, kind of come up with some questions. But as an employer, you have to be ready for if your employee offends and the internet starts going crazy, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of businesses are not prepared for that and have never even occurred to them that this can happen. But it happens often. And you see it. Oh, this person is no longer working with our company. We apologize over and over and over. You've seen this. But a lot of the smaller businesses, it's never occurred to them. And that's the sad part, because one horrible thing, or even not completely horrible, but something said can destroy a small business in a town.
Yep.
Real fast.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the big thing is, when you think about it, your responses, sometimes it seems like people are just looking for any wrongdoing or just one word that you say that's out of place or sounds bad or can be openly interpreted to mean anything, and they kind of want to pounce on it. And so I guess, you got to be really careful with that. Is there anything you can do? Do you want to, if you're going to respond on social media or handle customer service, do you want to have a system in place where somebody reads it before you send it out, just to make sure, or kind of like an editing process? Do you want to have that system in place?
I think that it would be very difficult to have that system in place especially if you're dealing with a lot of customer service. Mm-hmm. However, what you could do is, let's say that you get the same basic 20 questions. So you sit down with your team and you say, here's the same 20 questions or variety. They're kind of all range around these topics. Let's come up with some responses for it. However, you don't want to have canned responses because that bothers people.
Yeah, sure.
It basically says we don't matter. So I've always tried, and that was hard with Moz because you get the same question over and over and over. So I would try and come up with like different ways to phrase it. How could I phrase it this way or that way, or so that I had multiple responses. And now with you can set up automatic responses in Facebook for the similar questions. Oh. And you definitely want to have those ready. So you have 3 or 4 different options to choose from. So it doesn't look like you're saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But I think that anyone that hires someone to run their social media needs to maybe spend a week with them and kind of see how they do things.
Yeah.
Like how do they reply? And then the other thing to do would be to take some of the questions that you've gotten in the past and put them in like a Word doc or a spreadsheet and ask the employee to answer them for you. And then say, okay, how would you answer these? Look at their responses and just kind of break down for them. Okay, this is what I would change. This is how I would change it. That might be a good idea if you're doing an interview as well, to just say, how would you handle these situations? But at the same time, you know, if a brand has values in place and an idea of how their brand is supposed to be presented at all times, those questions or the answers should reflect that, you know?
Yeah.
And so your employee is going to have to find a way to make that happen. You know, we really want to help you, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, it's got to match with the brand, because as soon as you have someone who's speaking differently, the customers will notice. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, that's not how they've ever talked to me on the phone or on social media. So what's up with this? You know? And that's when you get, it's almost like they gang up together. People that don't even know each other on Twitter will just start hammering.
They become best friends.
You were rude to this person, you know? And it may be that someone just stepped in while someone went to use the restroom or something, but but you can't really afford to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it can quickly start, just a firestorm where people want to pounce on it and just kind of spiral out of control, which kind of leads me to my next point. Like, things can get out of control. Kind of worst case scenarios can happen. How can you make sure that you've planned for the worst, you know, and able to respond? And so if it does start just kind of going crazy, at some point you can kind of step in and take control of the situation.
Yeah, well, every team, and if you only have one person and the boss, then you do it with that person and the boss. But you sit down and you plan. You have like a spreadsheet or a document ready. If this happened, if this could happen, if this could happen, if this could happen, what would we do?
Yeah. If
someone says something unwise on social and people are upset, if you delete it, people are like, they deleted it.
Right.
But then if you don't delete it, they're like, they didn't even delete it. So, you know, you want to have a plan. Something like, okay, we deleted our last tweet because we saw that it was offensive. Leave it at that. But I mean, you want to have some plans in place so that, let's say the boss was in a car accident and you can't go to them and ask for help right now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you've got this little manual that says, do this in this situation, and this situation, and this situation. You break it down. Because when you're in the heat of it, when you're in the middle of a storm, it's very hard to stop and figure out what to do at times because there's so many people. You know?
Right.
And you're wanting to keep everybody calm, and you're wanting to fix the problem. And so if your employee can look over at this little document and say, okay, this is very similar to the issue we discussed. I'm going to follow this And then I'm going to message my boss and say, you know, I've got a problem. Or I'm going to message my team and say, can you help me out? Or do you have a friend who's also in social media that you can reach out to? I mean, you just want to have little books and manuals in place. And that's the one thing I really enjoyed working with Moz is I had a full doc of which developer to contact in each situation. And I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. I didn't have to worry. What do I do?
Right.
You know, the only time I had to worry was when we had the DDoS attack, because we never discussed that being an option.
Didn't know that was going to happen.
But we didn't know. And so that was a first. And then there was protocol set up after that.
Yeah.
Nice, because it happened like 2 or 3 other times.
Yes, it did. And we were under, you know, like the authorities were involved in telling us what we could and could not do. Wow. And that was, you know, and so all we could really do was be honest with the community. And when we said, you know what, we're under another DDoS attack, the community was really great. They're like, I can't believe this keeps happening to you, compared to the first time when they were angry. You know, once they understood we didn't drop the ball and let the site go down. This is what's happening. Then the community supported us back. And that's where transparency comes in. We could have tried to hide that fact, but we didn't. And it took us a while to figure out what is happening, because everyone at Moz was asleep and I didn't know. Right. So, you know, I think there's a good amount of transparency you want to have with your community, and to put out there on social media. And then you also want to be very careful, because I've seen that backfire as well. So you're really just dancing on a fine line.
Yeah.
Right.
Moz is very transparent.
Yes, very transparent, very honest. So it's one of those things where every business has to figure this out on their own. But I don't care what size you are, creating a manual for social media and what we're going to do in each situation is extremely important. And that even more so for the business owner is you could lose your social media manager. They're just gone in a day.
Yeah.
And you're stuck. And how do you retrain someone else? So if you have the manual there, that's the start.
Yeah.
But then the other issue is to have some kind of policy for your employees when they're not working for you. What are they saying under their own accounts? Because if it says on Twitter, I work for Pubcon, I have to be so careful because, you know, we have every country in the world coming to this conference, and everybody with every opinion on the planet. I can't offend anyone.
Yeah.
And so I really try to watch what I say. and I think, you know, we've all seen God bless her, because she's written what happened to her, but the Justine Sacco, the one that said she was going to Africa and hoped she didn't get AIDS.
Oh, yeah. She got off the plane and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, and so you kind of have to warn your employees. And we just saw this with the SNL writer that tweeted about Darren Trump.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's your personal account. You represent a brand. And as long as you represent that brand, you have to watch what you say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of, as a company, do you kind of let that be known? Like, you know, everybody has their social media, especially you always see people tagging themselves in Twitter, you know, Facebook, who they work for, their positions and titles and stuff. And people see that. So they need to kind of be aware of that fact. And you need to make it known as a company that they need to be aware of that fact, correct? Yes,
from day one. Like, you know, you might want to go through your tweets and make sure you haven't said anything that could come back to haunt this company. Companies don't have a choice nowadays.
Yeah.
And they won't have a choice but to fire you.
Yeah.
And so people that are in the social media realm are going to have to like wrap their head around that fact. And I think most of them have. They're very careful with what they say.
Yeah.
Because part of your job in social media is to protect the brand you work for.
Sure.
You know, and to defend the brand you work for. Mm-hmm. I'm fiercely loyal, and I've done that every time. But, you know, I also think before I put something out there, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And users they will find what they can and seem to use it against you if they can find it. So I guess you got to be extremely careful.
And it's a different world where people can now see everything about you and create a little dossier of here's everything they've ever done wrong. And so you've really got to be as careful as you can on every single social network. I had one woman who thought she could get away with doing stuff on Snapchat that she didn't do on Facebook and Instagram. That didn't work out for her.
that does not work out.
So it's a hard thing for businesses. This is not something that businesses have, when you go to business school, they didn't train you, well, do this with your social media manager.
Right.
That wasn't part of, I don't even know if it is today. But so it's a new world for businesses. They do have to be on social media. I tell everybody to look at American Airlines on Twitter and then look at American Airlines on Facebook at the difference in the customer service. And it's striking. All businesses should probably be on both of those for customer service. And if you don't want to be on two, then don't have an account for like on Facebook or Twitter. You know what I mean? If you don't have the staff, because for some reason, American Airlines doesn't handle all the complaints. And so you go through the page and it's horrible.
Oh, wow.
But if you go to Twitter, they're on it. I mean, they're on it in a heartbeat. I found the same thing with GMC, Pier 1. But yeah, I mean, they're all great on Twitter. These people, I haven't looked at their Facebook page because I don't need to go to their Facebook page because Pier 1 is one of the nicest companies I've ever dealt with on Twitter. GMC is as well. But American Airlines has kind of dropped the ball in that realm. So you can look at the brands on all the different networks and see where they're failing and where they're doing a good job. I think the best experience I ever had was AMC Theaters when I went to see Iron Man 2. And you all are from Florida. So we go into the theater, and there's no air conditioning in the middle of the summer.
Oh, no.
So I tweet, I've waited months for this movie, and it's 95 degrees in here. We're dying. So when we stepped out of the theater, they were standing there, managers, and gave us all free $10 gift cards.
Wow, that's good.
That's cool.
So there is power in that, and managing customer service on Twitter. And I think brands just need to pay a little more attention, even if they're small.
Yeah.
Amen. On that note, we've got probably 7-8 minutes before we sign off with you. I wanted to talk a little bit about Pubcon.
Okay.
Can you explain to our listeners what Pubcon is? For those
Pubcon is we call it the premier online marketing or digital marketing conference. We're a little different in that Pubcon tends to be more family-like. We're very accepting and open with everybody. There's a lot of networking. There's a lot of friendships. And you come there and you learn from the best in the industry. PubCon Sofima is February 21st and 22nd. We'll have 4 tracks there every hour and different networking experiences. And the 21st is actually our master's workshops. So if you're a business that needs to learn SEO from start to finish, you can send your team there. We have a beginner's track, an advanced track. We're going to have a link building track at Sofima. Then we have a social media workshop, which Lisa Beyer and I are doing at Sofima, and Dennis Yu. So then the second day is all the individual sessions. And you learn a lot, and then you can network with all of those speakers on numerous occasions. Vegas is a little bit different. We have 9 to 10 tracks every hour.
Wow.
3 days solid. So you're talking 8 to 5:30. And great keynotes off and on. And then the first day is, again, the workshop day. And that we have 7 tracks there, from everything from PPC to social advertising. I mean, it's massive. Vegas is a beast of a conference. You really need to pace yourself. and it is Vegas, but you can learn so much. And what we usually have is companies send their entire team and they split up.
Nice.
One will go to the content track, another will go to the social track, another will go to the SEO track, so on. And they get to go back and just use everything they've learned for the year. But SEFIMA is a little smaller, a lot more engaged. So where in Vegas, you might have 200 people, 300 people in a room. Here, you'll have less and kind of get to know more people. And in Florida, so they're two totally different conferences, but they're great. PubCon was always my conference of choice, even before I worked for them, just because the people were so nice. And I've been to other conferences where you kind of feel like you're there, but you're not really accepted.
Yeah.
You know, and you're kind of like not one of the cool kids. But at PubCon, it's like everybody loves everybody. Nice. And so I really loved speaking at PubCon and going there before I even worked for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have any questions, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at SEO Aware, or you can reach me at PubCon, and we can help you out.
Cool. Is that your company Twitter thing, or is that your
SEO Aware is my company's Twitter handle. Gotcha. Just kind of mine. I'm kind of now more of a consultant than an agency that I was before, so
very cool.
I have to change up my website a little bit.
Very cool. And you and Lisa Bauer will be talking social? Yeah,
we have a workshop, a social workshop, where we kind of go over the basics through strategy and hiring and what you need to know and what's new this year. And then at SEFIMA, we're going to have a few hours with Dennis Yu, who's going to break down how to do social media advertising.
Oh, cool.
And so usually in Vegas, social media advertising is its own track and social media is its own track. And we're going to SEFIMA, we're going to kind of combine it. And so people will be able to learn what they need to know and then how to advertise at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, so you've kind of got the flavor for everybody. So, I mean, if it's somebody wanting to learn SEO, they can go to a beginner class, or if it's an advanced person, they can do that. Or
right. And then day 2 is really just, we have the agenda on the PubCon website. It's everything from Google Analytics to optimizing for Amazon. I mean, you just never know what people need. Mm-hmm. So we have a little bit of everything. So I think if you want to check PubCon out at a smaller scale, Florida is great. Mm-hmm. And if you're ready to put in a full week at Vegas and type your little fingers off, then you go to Vegas. But
it's kind of graduation from small to
we have a lot of people that come to Vegas and are like, I had no idea. The average, I think I walked 15 miles every day last time in Vegas. Just
wow.
Because the convention center is huge and you're walking room to room to room to room, and to the keynotes. And so you would think you'd lose weight, but you don't. And I think it's because Vegas isn't great on healthy food.
It's all the buffets.
It's all the buffets. But overall, it's still, as large as it is, it's a very friendly conference. So we invite everybody to come and check it out.
Nice. And it's 5 days?
Vegas is 4 days, but of course you have to fly out the day before. And then you got to fly out. So, but SEFIMA's 2 days. You can get the workshop ticket and the SEFIMA Summit Day ticket. So you have 2 days, or you can just get one or the other in Florida. So it all depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for all the sessions or the workshops and the sessions.
So, and it's probably the better price of most of the conventions out there, right?
It's a very fair price. Yes.
I mean, for what you're getting. Mm-hmm.
For what you're getting and who you're getting to speak. And if you look at some of these speakers, and it's $1,000 or $2,000 an hour to consult with, and you get to hear them speak for an hour, and then you get to sit down at the bar with them or at lunch and ask them questions. Mm-hmm. You can't really
put a price on that. Yeah.
No. It's amazing what you'll learn just from hanging out with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool. So I want to thank you for being on the show. We are getting close to running out of time here. And I really appreciate it. I mean, you've a lot of valuable information on companies so they can learn their social
absolutely
and use that to as a valuable tool in customer service.
Right.
So I wish them all luck.
Yeah, well, thank you, Melissa. We really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, and I'll see you at Pubcon.
All right, see you there.
Have a good. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye-bye. Yeah, so guys, I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. If you are, like I said, first time listening, we cover everything. So tune in next week. We've got Rand Fishkin.
Oh, Rand's on the show?
Yep.
All right.
Rand from Moz.
This is his third time on the show.
Yeah.
Gets better each time.
I mean, you can't miss if you're listening to Rand on the show because he always delivers something good that you can take back with you in actionable items.
Yes.
And I think we're talking a little bit of both SEO, some content marketing. We're going to cover.
We kind of dive into everything when we
Yeah.
have Rand on the show, which is why they're so good, because we kind of talk about all the aspects of online marketing that's going to benefit your business. So yeah, definitely tune in. A lot of great stuff. If you missed any part of today's show with Melissa Fach, who is the social community manager at Pubcon, you can do so. Go to Search Talk Live after the show. If you're not following us on Twitter, go do that now, because we're always tweeting out the shows right after they complete. Next week's show, previous shows. So go follow us there. You can listen to us online at searchtalklive.com, or you can listen to us on Spreaker as well. If you haven't followed us on Spreaker, please go do so. And you can, show's always there.
Yeah, and you can do that hashtag Search Talk Live anytime, or you can email us, Robert at Search Talk Live or Caleb at Search Talk Live, and we'll answer your questions live on the air, or we could just answer them in the email. Either way.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing I wanted to mention is I noticed that our form was not working. If you were applying to be a guest on the show and I did not respond to you, it's because I didn't get the email. I fixed that problem today or yesterday. So if you did apply and you didn't get a response, send me an email or try that form again. I didn't want everybody thinking that I'm just ignoring you.
Yeah. No, yeah. If you want to be a guest on the show, please feel free to contact us, fill out the form. We've got a lot of great guests coming up, and we'd love to have you. If you got a good topic and it can come on the show, be a good deal. But yeah, if you missed any part of today's show, go check it out, searchtalklive.com or Spreaker. Sign up for the newsletter as well. We're always talking about sending out who's coming up, what's going on with Search Talk Live, any giveaways or deals that we have going on.
Yeah, we're starting too. We're also, in about a week, we're going to we started transcribing the shows.
Yes.
So we'll actually have the text on the website. You can read through it and get little bits and pieces of it or listen to the show at the same time.
Yeah. A lot of great stuff. A lot of good stuff happening in 2017 on Search Talk Live.
Yeah.
We appreciate you being a part of this journey with us. If you have any questions for us, any concerns, comments, or any suggestions for show topics, or you want to suggest a guest, maybe you have somebody in mind that would be great for the show, you can do so by emailing us or going to searchtalklive.com, filling out the form, and we'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we are booked up until April now.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, May. So be patient with us. But so follow us on Twitter. Go to Spreaker. I can't believe we're at almost 33,000 plays of our show.
Crazy.
And over 4,100 followers just on Spreaker. That's amazing.
Nuts.
It's nuts.
I like it.
So yeah, follow us there. That way you get an update as soon as the show goes live. And we were here. Guys, thanks for your support. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
See you next week.
Search Talk Live is a presentation of the Robert Palmer family of companies.